Hello everyone and welcome back to my World of Tanks Xbox 360 tank guide. Today we are going to be talking about the AMX 1375. Now this is one of the most popular French tanks. This is a tier 7 light tank. You will play up to tier 10 tanks in this tank. Production of the AMX 13 series, there was different variants of the AMX 13. This is the AMX 1375. At tier 8 you get the AMX 1390, also another X tank. But these tanks, research and development of these tanks started in the late 1940s. Production started in the 1950s, late 1950s, mid 1950s, I think. But they were up in service all the way up until they produced these tanks, the AMX 13 series, all the way up until 1985. And actually today, South America and Asian, some of the Asian countries still use this tank in service. This is how good this tank is, guys. It is a deployable tank. This tank was made to be dropped from planes, autoloader. So just tells you how good this tank actually is. Now, if you know how to play a light tank, playing a light tank takes skill. It's basically a skill you have to learn. I can't really teach you guys how to play a light tank in this guide. The only thing I can do is just give you guys some tips. One is keep your hit points, stay away from damage early on in a battle. Wait until enemies have taken damage. Spot for your team. This is where it starts to get serious in your light tanks. So the lower the light tanks, you know, tier 6, tier 5 light tanks, you know, mess around. But now you're up to tier 7. You're going up against the big boys. Tier 10. You need a spot. You only get a 75 millimeter gun. And the penetration is only 144. This tank does not get high pin. You're going to have problems pinning the tier 10 tanks. So you need to act as a scout for your team. Keep your health points healthy early on. Scout, move around, help support your team. And then whenever the end of the battle is rolling around, whenever there's like 7 or less tanks remaining, whenever half of the team is dead, this tank becomes very, very dangerous because all those tanks have taken hits, and this tank becomes very, very dangerous. And that's how most of the French tanks are. Conserve your hit points early on, and these tanks become very, very dangerous late in the battle. So basically, a tip is hide in bushes. Don't fire your gun unless necessary, because you will get spotted if you don't have Sixth Sense. As you can tell, I don't have Sixth Sense in this tank. I do play this tank fairly aggressively. If I'm in lower tiered battles, say up to tier 8, if I'm like in a tier 8, tier 7 match, I play this tank very, very aggressively. Because 144 pin can penetrate tier 7 to tier 8 tanks. Most of them, not all of them. But as you get up into tier 9 or tier 10 battles, playing a traditional scout is very detrimental to your team. You need to scout for your team, be supportive, light up targets if you possibly can. This tank is a very low profile tank. It is very fast. It doesn't have the acceleration that you would like in a light tank. It does have a slow start. On takeoff, it seems like, but once you hit that top speed, if you can keep that top speed maintained, very, very fast little bugger. But with that in mind, let's talk about whenever you unlock this tank. When you unlock this tank, you get a very bad 75mm gun. I believe it only has a 108 pin. Very, very bad. Accuracy ain't too great on it either. But what you're going to want is what this tank comes standard on, and what you're going to want on your tank is you're going to want the Tier 5 turret FL10 Type C, which will already be unlocked. No research required on that. But what you're going to want is a 75mm SA50. The other 75mm is a Tier 5. It's a 75mm SA49. You want the Tier 6. So that just tells you what kind of gun you're dealing with. It's only a Tier 6 gun, and you play against Tier 10 tanks. The engine, you're going to want a Tier 7 Detroit Diesel 6V53T. That will be unlocked at the last package, I believe. Maybe the second package. Suspension is a Tier 7 suspension, AMX13 Type 2A. Your first suspension is a Tier 5 AMX13 Type 1R. Not a very good suspension at all. You will see very slow. But you do get a Tier 10 radio in this tank, SCR F28F. You will be able to communicate with all of your other tanks on the battlefield. Let's talk about the hit points that this tank gets. You get to less than 1,000 hit points in this tank. You're going to get 900 hit points in this tank. So you don't have a large health pool. Some tanks, some of the bigger tanks in this game, are going to be able to one-shot you if you get hit. Basically what I'm talking about is the tank destroyers, T95s, T110E4s, you know, the bigger tank destroyers. They're going to be able to take you out with one hit, especially if they high roll. Another downfall of this tank is lightly armored, so if people fire high explosive rounds at you, they're going to do probably maximum damage on their high explosive rounds. So, I mean, basically in this tank, if you're playing a top tier tanks, Tier 10s to Tier 9s, be very, very careful with your tank. You can get one-shotted. This tank will only be able to take 1 or 2 hits in those type of battles. Now with the lower tiered battles, you could probably take 3 to 4 hits. But like I said, conserve your hit points. Signal range, you get 750 meter signal range. Excellent. Speed limit, 61 kilometers per hour. Very, very good. This tank can book it, and your speed limit backwards is going to be 23 kilometers per hour. Above average speed limit going backwards. Let's talk about the weight of this tank. This tank only weighs 15 tons, guys. Very lightly armored tank. You don't want to get rammed in this tank. That's what I'm saying. But the load limit for this tank is when it's loaded, with the equipment and stuff, it's going to weigh about 16.35 tons. This is the maximum load limit that you can have with equipment on this tank. Let's talk about the crew. You only get 3 crew members in this tank. Driver. So you're wondering who acts as your radio operator or loader. Well, the commander acts as your radio operator and a loader, and your gunner also acts as a loader. So, let's just put this into perspective. Your commander gets knocked out. Not only are you losing your commander, you're losing your operator, and you're using a loader. So that means if your commander goes down, that means you ain't going to be able to spot. Your tank is going to take a detrimental hit on its abilities and skills. you're not going to be able to communicate with other tanks, and your reload time is going to be horrible. Want to get hit by artillery or a high explosive shell in this tank, because it will take out your crew members, and if all 3 of your crew members die in this tank, your tank is dead. Talk about the whole armor. I'll talk about the armor of this tank, even though there's not much to really talk about. The whole armor on the front, 40 millimeters in the front, 20 millimeters on the side, 15 millimeters on the rear. All high explosive shells will penetrate this tank. Pretty much same goes for the turret. Turret, 40 millimeters on the front, 20 millimeters on the side, 20 on the rear. Now, I have ricocheted shots in this tank. Because it is a small, low-profile tank, some shots will hit your tracks, and your tracks will eat the shot, but don't count on it. Turret can be very, very troll. Even though it has only 40 millimeters of armor on the front, I have ricocheted a Tier 10 T11 OE3 shot from the front of the turret of this tank. I mean, it does have some sloping on it, and it has a gun mantle. What that gun mantle is, but since this is such a low-profile tank, you know, you're moving around. If a shell hits your gun mantle, it's going to ricochet. So I'm pretty sure that's how I got ricochets in this tank, is from the gun mantle, or I was just angled extremely well. Don't know. But don't count on ricocheting any shots in this tank. Engine power. You get a 300 horsepower engine, which, if you do the math, that's only going to give you a 19.74 horsepower to ton weight ratio. Alright. I would have expected better out of a light tank. Most medium tanks have better horsepower to weight ratio than this tank. This tank lacks in that category, I would say, but it's not bad. You can pop out back into cover, but not as well as some other tanks. Now the transverse speed on this tank is 40 degrees per second. That is pretty good. This tank can turn on a dime, guys, so... fire chance in this tank, which is another great thing about this tank. It only has a 15% chance of getting set on fire. So that's another great thing. That's below average. The average fire chance of a tank is usually about 20%, so... below average chance of getting set on fire. And it is a diesel engine. Now let's talk about the view range. View range of this tank is only 390 meter view range. You're going to be going up against Tier 9s and Tier 10s, and some of those Tier 9s and Tier 10s, and all the Tier 10s, I should say, have at least 400 meter view range. So you're going to at least want to put on coated optics or binocular telescope, depending on how you're going to play your light tank. That'll get you above the 400 meter. Reverse is 46 degrees per second, which is excellent. This turret turns very, very quickly, guys. And of course the turret rotates all the way around, so it's not an ELC AMX. So let's talk about the ammo for this tank. This tank gets 3 types of ammo. Piercing, gets armor piercing composite rigid rounds, and it gets high explosive rounds. Now you don't want to load any high explosive rounds in this tank at all. Let's talk about the average damage that these shells do. Your armor piercing and APCR is going to do a standard of 135 hit points when you hit a target or when your shell penetrates. With high explosive, it does 175. That's why I said don't load high explosive in this tank. And the splash radius of those high explosive is only 1.6 meters. Let's talk about the penetration power of these shells. Armor piercing, you're going to get 144 millimeters of penetration. your APCR is going to give you 202 millimeters of penetration, and your high explosive is only going to give you 38 millimeters of penetration, guys. So, and you don't want to load too much APCR. Yes, you get 202 millimeters of penetration, but that is not going to be enough to penetrate the front of an E100, E75. The more heavily armored tanks, it is not going to pin those tanks at all. So don't load in this tank. You do want to load some. Let's talk about the shell price. The shells are very, very cheap for this tank. So you're going to make money in this tank whether you're running premium or not. Your armor piercing rounds are going to cost you 109 silver, and your high explosive rounds cost you 98 silver, and your armor piercing composite rigid rounds cost you 7 gold. So that's pretty cheap for premium rounds. Now let's talk about the shell speed. Shell speed for your armor piercing and high explosive rounds is 1,000 meters per second, and your armor piercing composite rigid rounds are going to give you 1,250 meters per second. Let's talk about the damage output of this gun. This tank 1,869 hit points per minute with its armor piercing composite rigid rounds. With high explosive, it is capable of doing 2,423 hit points per minute. But those shells have to penetrate, and I'm sorry, but 38 millimeters of penetration is not going to cut it. You are not going to do 2,423 hit points per minute with those high explosive shells, guys. Let's talk about the rate of fire. Rate of fire is going to be 13.85 rounds per minute. That's not bad at all. Your reload time with the full crew, 100% crew, is going to be about 16 seconds. So it reloads a full clip very, very quickly, and in this clip you get a 6-round clip. So you get 6 rounds to fire, and 16 seconds is a pretty fast reload time for 6 shells. Now your reload time in between firing those shells is going to be 2 seconds. So every shot you fire is going to be 2 seconds, but just remember you load it into the chamber. So it's basically going to take you about 10 seconds to unload an entire clip into an enemy. Let's talk about the accuracy of this gun. It's 0.36 accuracy. Not bad. It's pretty good accuracy. Aim time. It's getting a lot better from the other light tanks. So this does have somewhat of a more fairly quickly aim time, but it is still somewhat kind of slow. I would consider it average. Not bad, not great. Let's talk about one of the downfalls of this tank, is the gun elevation and the gun depression. Been suck on this tank, guys. You're not going to get any at all. It's basically because it has an oscillating turret, and because the turret is rear mounted and the front of the tank sticks out above the gun. So you're only going to get 6 degrees of gun depression, which is not great. You're only going to get 9 degrees of gun elevation, so you're not going to be able to aim up at your tank. You're going to have to use hills and stuff to aim up at your targets if they are above you, and you don't want to pop up over hills trying to aim down over enemies, because you're just not going to be able to do it in this tank. Now, you only get 36 rounds in this tank, and you will go through your rounds very, very quickly, guys. There's not enough ammo in this tank to support you throughout the entire battle, so you need to be conservative with your ammo. That's why I said take your time at the beginning of the battle, and whenever about half the team is dead, then start supporting your tank with gunfire. because those 36 rounds are going to go by very, very quickly, because you can unload an entire clip in 10 seconds and your reload time only takes 16 seconds to reload with a full upgraded crew, and that's not without Brothers in Arms. If you have Brothers in Arms, I'm pretty sure you can get down to like 15 and a half seconds maybe. With some other stuff equipped as well. But let's talk about the camo values of this tank. Camo value, what's great about light tanks, they maintain their camo value while on the move. These camo values are while out in the open. This is not without being in cover behind bushes or anything. Yeah, this is with you being out in the open. You're going to get a 17.5% camo value while stationary and while in motion. And when you're firing your gun, you're only going to have a camo value of 4.14%. So this tank has excellent camo value without having any camo on it. But if you put camouflage, if you take the time and you put camouflage on this tank, you could probably get it up to, and you have Brothers in Arms and Strong Coffee and stuff, you could probably get your camo tile, which would be great. And that's with hiding behind bushes and cover. Well, hiding behind bushes and cover, that camo value is going to go up dramatically. Hiding behind bushes and other obstacles gives you such an increase in your. Now let's talk about the battle performance of this tank. For average players, your accuracy while firing this gun is going to be about 64% for an average player firing the gun. Your win rate isn't going to be high. It's going to be about 47.8%, so about almost close to about 48%. So less than 50% is what your win rate is going to be. Let's check out my win rate in this tank. So let's just check out to see how I'm doing. Your damage dealt per battle is only going to be 397 damage dealt in this tank. So that just tells you what the gun is capable of doing. And your kills per battle is only going to be about 0.36. You're not even going to get a kill a battle. So I haven't really been playing this tank this much. I've only played 22 battles, but as you can see, my win percentage is at a 59%. I've had 13 victories, 9 defeats. I do have a mastery badge in this tank already, out of playing those 22 battles. Now, out of those 22 battles, I have destroyed good. I've only survived 36% of my battles, though. So that just tells you what your survivability is in this tank. And my hit percentage while firing the gun is a little bit above average, 66%, considering the average is 64, so it's not bad. Now I'm sure all this is going to drop down eventually. The more you play, either it'll get better or it'll get worse. So let's talk about supplies. Now you want a good ratio of armor piercing to armor piercing composite rigid rounds. You don't want to load any high explosive. What I've done here is I've gone 30 armor piercing and 6 armor piercing composite rigid rounds, because the clip holds 6 rounds in a clip. But you could even go 24-12 if you want. That wouldn't be a bad idea either. But let's talk about consumables that you should put on this tank. Small repair kit, small first aid kit. Unless you can afford it, I wouldn't go for large. You are only a light tank. But small repair kit, small first aid kit. Wouldn't even go for a fire extinguisher. Strong coffee would be the way to go, guys. You want strong coffee. This tank only has a 15% chance of getting set on fire, so strong coffee is a great idea. And if you get set on fire anyway, you're pretty much going to die. Most of your hit points are going to be gone anyway, so this is going to add 10% to all your crew skills. So this is going to help your camo value, your reload time, everything, your accuracy. Coffee is the way to go. You're going to want a small repair kit, small first aid kit, and strong coffee. Now for equipment, the way equipment goes for this tank is you're going to want coated optics. It's going to add 10% to your view range. And this is while also on the move. You don't have to be stationary for the coated optics to be going. So I wanted to get my view range, because you only get 390 meter view range, so I wanted to get my view range up to 400, and this gets it well above 400. And I also wanted to be able to use my speed, so coated optics is the way to go. I didn't want to be sitting and waiting for my binocular telescopes, because for binocular telescopes to work you have to be sitting stationary, and then they take effect. So if you got to use the strengths of the tank. And now if I was one of the slower light tanks, it'd be bad to use. You're going to want an enhanced gun lane drive on this tank. It's going to add 10% to your aim speed. Remember, this tank has a 2.3 second aim time, so you want to get that down. This will probably get it down to like 2 seconds, which will be great. And you're going to want to improve ventilation class. It's going to add 5% to all your crew skills, so it's going to help with your camo values, your aim time, your reload time, and everything. So this is what you're going to want on your tank, on this light tank in particular. And basically whenever you get into this tank here is going to set you up for the bat chat. And you might as well start learning to play. You might as well start learning to play your tanks like a bat chat, because this is what these tanks are going to help you do. These tanks are going to help you play your bat chat, the tier 10 medium tank on the French line. So now is a good time to start putting on equipment that is going to help you learn how to play the bat chat. Now, if this tank got a vertical stabilizer, I would have put a vertical stabilizer instead of coated optics on this tank. But this tank can't get a vertical stabilizer, so coated optics, because this is a light tank. So with that in mind, I will be leaving you guys with 2 replays. These replays won't be from my live stream. These are just battles that I have done on my own. So I will be commentating during these battles, letting you guys know what I was thinking during the course of the battle and why I did the particular things that I did. And hopefully I will show you guys the strengths of this tank and some of the weaknesses of this tank. Alright, so here we are on steps. It is a standard battle. Going to be playing in the AMX 1375. So what I like to do here, let's see here. Okay, so we spawned in the south. So if I have spawned in the south and I'm a light tank, looking at the map, see it's a tier 9 match. But if I spawn in the south, what I like to do is I like to come to the right side, and there's a rock that provides some pretty good cover, and a couple bushes where this rock is, which provides great abilities to spot. But on my way there, I'm going to pop in and out over these hills here to see if I can't spot any tanks coming over this way. It seems like spawning on this side, it seems like not too many tanks come over here, but it seems like my team is doing a pretty good job of coming over here. The other side is just pretty much you're just pretty much stuck where you are. There's not a whole lot of room to move, and here we go. We're starting to spot some tanks. Get one spot over there. And there's some tanks across the way. It looks like they're trying to run up the middle there. There, I take a shot, miss. I know I have been spotted because I fired my gun, so I'm going to move back out. Here's a Wolfentrager. There I take a hit. I'm still spotted. Don't have 6th Sense on the tank yet. So, if you don't have 6th Sense and you're driving a light tank, always just remember, always assume that you have been spotted and you are still spotted. Usually a good rule of thumb is to wait maybe at least 10 seconds at most before you know you're unspotted. So I didn't do what I said I was gonna do. I was going to make a run for my rock, but you know what? I got kind of distracted by what was going on over there on my other side. Now here we go. We're starting to get some spots there. Take a hit from this M103. Hits my tracks. I'm trying to track him right back, hoping that my artillery will probably take him out. There, I was hitting his tracks. I hit his tracks once there. Take another hit. So I am basically almost dead. Did not do a good job of taking care of my hit points here, guys. Didn't even follow my own tips. Was trying, you know, I should have repaired my tracks a lot sooner and just went into cover. But I wanted to track that dude, and I was hoping that my artillery would take him out. Here we go. We have a 628 prototype. So here you guys can see the rate of fire and the accuracy of this gun. How long the aim time is in between shots. If you notice, you are able to fire your next shot before you are fully zoomed in again, which makes sometimes the accuracy of this gun not perform very well. But the gun performs well enough. The problem is its penetration power. You're not going to be able to pin some of the heavier tanks. Here, I'm starting to fire at this guy on the move. I auto aim. So there's not very many tanks left. Now here there's an STI. Now here you're going to see what the penetration power is like. Look at this. I am hitting underneath his armored plate on the backside of his tank, and no damage at all. It's just ricochets. So this is the kind of pain you're going to be living with in this tank. Didn't want to load armor piercing Composite Ridge rounds for that because the battle was almost over, but there was a good example of how well the AP shells are going to perform against heavier tanks. Battle statistics. That was my 2x multiplier for the day. Got a 3rd class mastery badge. Finished about in the middle of the pack. Not bad, I guess. Could have done better. If I would have went to where I said I wanted to go a lot sooner, probably would have had a lot better game. So now here we are. We are on Kamaran. This is an encounter battle. Haven't played these types of battles that much on Kamaran. I believe there's also an assault. I think I've played assault one time here on Kamaran. I've played an encounter battle here twice, so this will be like my 3rd game. I used to get Kamaran all the time. I mean, I still get Kamaran, but it's usually standard battle. I don't know about you guys, but but here we go. Looking at the board, I noticed they have like 3 artillery pieces there. So artillery is definitely going to be a factor in how this game is played. But we have 2 artillery.
So it is a tier 8 battle, so I feel like I could play a little bit more aggressively in my tank this time, because I know I can take a few extra hits than I can in tier 9 or 10 game. But my plan is here, I'm going to push up right here. I'm going to use this dead tank obstruction here to hide my tank for anyone who's going to come up on this hill, because I know my team isn't going to come up here, because it seems like the other times that I played this map on Encounter Battle, no heavy tanks or no one came up here to try and defend this encounter area. We have a T-32 down there. T-32 should really be up here, or pushing up here anyway. Now here I get spotted. See, you know, I had probably already been spotted for a while. They pointed their gun at me. I take 2 hits there, I believe. So there goes half my hit points. It looks like maybe the T-32 is going to head up there. So we're going to switch spots here. I'm going to take the lower ground there. T-44 spotted. He's in a pretty good position. There's no way that this gun, from this distance, or the angle that he's in, there's no way that my shell is going to penetrate this turret. But I am just firing just to keep him aware that there are tanks over here, and I'm just trying to basically keep him where he's at by firing. But I'm not going to fire a lot of rounds at him, just because of the fact that you need your rounds. You only get 36. Now here I spot a tank destroyer. It's an ISU, very deadly tank. He can finish me off with 1 shot. Very, very deadly tank. Depending on what gun he's using as well. That tank gets 2 very big deadly guns that you should only use on that tank if it's the tier 8 tank. Second shot, it connects, but you know what, it wasn't that much damage. I decided to fire another shot into him. Didn't see anything. I'm not going to waste my shells. You cannot afford to waste your shells in this tank, guys. So the enemy is capping the base. My team has finally decided that they're going to in there. Assault tank destroyer heading up over there. So I realize now that I was just basically trying to scare this medium tank again. That's what I'm doing there. I saw him shooting at the flanks of my buddies there. But basically, what I realized is that this left flank over here is wide open. So I realized half of the team has been dead. They only have 3 artillery tanks. Those tanks are not important. They're not even moving around. They're not even the main focus right now. Yes, they are the main focus for the other tanks who are slower, the heavier tanks. Who ain't got the speed and mobility to move around. Artillery is going to focus on those guys. Artillery isn't going to focus on a light tank that much. If an artillery is focusing on a light tank, it's because that light tank isn't moving around enough. But here I realize it's time to make my move. If I don't make my move and I don't go and spot the remaining portion of this team, we're going to lose this game. Because my team can't push up far into the middle because of the artillery. So I need to spot these guys, and I know exactly where they are. They're sitting on their spawn point. I mean, they haven't moved a muscle, I guarantee you that. But here's that T-44, here's our buddy, having for a little bit of butt sex. First shot goes wide. That shot connects. That shot connects. We're just messing this dude up right now. He is not a happy camper right now. He's had a great position all game. But there you guys can see how fast this gun can unload a clip. It's a little slower than 10 seconds if you fully wait for your reticles to zoom in. And now here they are. There's 2 artillery. There's a medium tank. 3 artillery. There they all are. They are all bunched together. I don't understand why our artillery players did not see that. I would have seen so many artillery shells coming from that area if I wasn't artillery. That's just insane right there. For all I know, maybe our artillery wasn't even playing. Heck, I don't know. But either way, this game is now over. We know where these guys are now. And that T-44 was the only one pretty much remaining over there.
Scratch another bad guy.
Still don't know where that T-28 prototype is.
We hit them hard.
See a medium tank. There's that little medium tank. Oh, and there's the T-28 prototype. He may have already been spotted. I probably didn't realize it. But, T-29 over there is going ham. Don't know if that T-28 prototype is AFK. The medium tank definitely looks like he's AFK. He was. And this T-28 prototype is AFK as well, looks like. So, here we go. Let's see what this is going to do with the dead tank. Pretty much already dead.
Scratch another bad guy.
And this remaining is a tier 8 artillery. M40-43. I believe is what that is, yeah. So this is gonna push him off. Maybe. No, we ain't gonna get the kill here. Good game. Good game right here. Not bad. Not bad at all. To victory. So, you know what? That game was pretty much even the entire time. Kinda, you know. We could have leaned one way or the other. But I made the move. So, let's see here. We did 2,682. Oh, and there's our mastery badge, guys. So, let's see what you gotta do in this tank to get a mastery badge. So, I got my mastery badge for this tank. We did very, very well. We got 1,788 base experience. It really didn't seem like I was doing too much. So let's see here. Alright, so this is what it looks like to get a mastery badge in this tank. All you gotta basically do is 500 spot damage, it looks like, and around 1,000, maybe above 1,500 damage. That's all you gotta do. Probably get a mastery badge by spotting even